is going on, all my haunted followers? Guys, welcome back to my channel. First and foremost, again, thank you to my new subscribers, and thank you guys for keeping subscribing. I really, I want to apologize again. I know it's been almost 3 to 4 months you guys have heard from me. Again, guys, finding the time and really editing the videos and just honestly finding the motivation to do this. It's really hard, especially when you're exhausted from work. But again, guys, just thank you so much. I have to put out there. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. I promise that things are gonna get a little bit better. I do have someone in the near future, hopefully next month or two, that's going to edit my videos. So that's huge for me. It's gonna be a huge help, and especially for that person who has taken their time out to do that. And he's quite a big YouTuber. I'm not gonna mention his name or anything, but he's gonna help me edit my videos, and which is huge to me. So I want to say thank you to him. So, guys, I was really picky on what I wanted to do for a topic. I was tossed between doing skinwalkers and werewolves and other things, but I haven't done this in a while, and I wanted, I think it's be kind of cool for another topic, which is 10 paranormal encounters. And I think this is true to my heart. Like always, again, I've been doing this for how many years now? 18 years. So I really wanted to do another 10 paranormal encounters. So, as always, sit back and prepare to get scared. From a counter always says the same thing. You never forget it. Why do these events play over and over again in our minds? This happened to me when I was in college. I had just moved into my dorm. I was honestly nervous being alone. I had another roommate who had the same thoughts as I did. Her name was Sarah. For the story, Sarah was just as nervous as me, so it made it a lot easier having to deal with being alone and away from home. Now, the college I was staying in was pretty old, and our dorm room was even older. I think it dated back to the 1800s or so. My first few weeks actually went by not so bad. I found myself adjusting to college life pretty quickly. It wasn't bad up until one night. We decided to go to a small get-together with a couple of our classmates. One of the girls asked us where we were staying. We told her, and the girl looked at us. What? What room are you staying in? So I told her, room 27. Why? Haven't you heard? At first, I didn't think she was going to tell me what she did. Years ago, a girl committed suicide in the bathroom. She slit her wrists. I honestly didn't believe her until everyone started telling us that it was a true story, and after some research, I found it was true. Her name was Kelsey. She really did kill herself. Now the school covered up as an accident, but everyone knew the truth. I'd only been there for 2 months. At that point, never experienced anything weird. Up until Sarah pointed out some strange things. For instance, the bathroom light bulb was always blowing out, or the shower turning itself on. We always just thought it was electrical or an issue with a loosened shower knob. It started out all coming together. Honestly, I was actually scared to go back to the room, but we had to. That night, it was hard to get to sleep. It kept playing in my head, and eventually I ended up falling asleep. Several days went by without anything weird happening, until one night. I was in my room studying. All of a sudden, I got these goosebumps, and the room atmosphere changed. I really can't explain it. I looked around the room and saw nothing. That's when I heard Sarah scream. Scream bloody murder. I jumped up and ran into the hallway to see Sarah beside herself. A girl. There was a girl in the tub. She kept saying. I was so scared, I peered into the bathroom, but saw nothing. At first, I really thought it was nothing but a joke. Okay, good joke, Sarah, I said to her. But then I noticed that she wasn't joking. I got her to calm down enough. A girl. She was just laying in the tub. Her arms were covered in blood. I could just make out her, and I didn't know what to do. I was getting really scared and I just didn't want to be there anymore. Again, days went by without something happening. I know a lot of people reading the story thinking that we're nuts for staying, but honestly, we had no choice at the time. That was up until one night. Sarah had to stay out for class, and it was about 9 or so. I was alone in my dorm by myself, and I was watching TV. From where you're sitting on the couch, you can see the bathroom door. All of a sudden, the light started turning on and off. I thought, what the hell? Not really thinking anything paranormal. I got up to turn it off or check the bulb. I turned the corner and entered the bathroom. That's that's when I saw her. She was just standing in the middle of the bathroom, her arms covered in blood. I couldn't make out her face. I was so scared I couldn't move or even turn the light on. And then she screamed. The scream was like a surround sound all around me. I ran out of that dorm room so fast and got to my car. I was shaking. That was it. We eventually moved out a week later, not even staying in the room. I honestly don't know what happened in that room or why, but for anyone who is staying in room 27, so. And this is my experience was one of the most chilling of my life. Back in 2005, I completed my dream of purchasing my very own bar. The location needed work, but I was glad to do it. The bar originally was, from what I was told, a funeral parlor back in the 1930s. It was all speculation at the time, as the building had seen many faces, and it was in a really good area. When I purchased it, it had been closed for several years. We began renovations 8 months later, and the purchase had pushed me back a little bit. Now, at first, I really didn't have any paranormal experiences. One day, I was at the hardware store picking up supplies. The manager asked me what I was working on. When I told him I was fixing up the old building down the road, he looked at me like he had seen a ghost. Oh, you haven't heard about that place? It's haunted. Honestly, I didn't believe in any of all that ghost stuff, and I just laughed and said, okay, well, if Casper wants to stay, he'll have to pay rent. The man kinda angrily looked at me. I want to joke about that place. I used to work there when it was a convenience store. I'll never step foot in that place ever again. I just shook my head. Listen, it's an old building, it probably has its issues. I just don't believe in that stuff. The man looked at me again. You'll see. Trust me. You don't just make a funeral parlor and walk away from it. That kind of put chills on my spine, but I just carried on. Several days into renovations, my brother yelled at me, Jamie, get down here! And I ran down to the basement where he was working. I was shocked to see that he had pulled down a fake wall and behind it, an embalming room with embalming tools. Wow, I guess the rumors are true, I told him. He just looked at me. I don't like this, Jamie. One bit. Okay, get back to work, I told him. At that time, I wasn't going to allow some stupid rumors and some old tools to stop my dream. We ended up cleaning up the basement of the old stuff and redoing the whole area. Well, weeks went by and I was proud of the progress. One night, I was working late as we needed to finish up the paint. It was the last step to the finish. As I finished up painting in the basement, I was just standing there taking everything in. That's when this ungodly smell started to fill the room. The smell of decay. I nearly vomited, it was so strong. I thought at first maybe a mouse or a rat had gotten into the newly built walls and had just passed away. Weeks went by, but the smell never did. We were up and running. The bar actually was doing very well, but the smell stayed. I ended up calling an exterminator. After about an hour, he told me that there was no way that something was dead, as the smell would have gone away, and he had found no evidence of rodents. Finally, after weeks of just dealing with it, the smell did eventually go away. One night, one of my employees went down to the basement to grab some extra bottles. I heard her scream. She ran up the stairs and ran out the back door. She quit the very next day. After begging to tell me what happened, she told me that she would never step far in that bar again, and whatever was in the bar was absolutely evil. Employee after employees would leave, when eventually it was just me and my brother. I just didn't understand what was going on until one final night. I had worked late that night, needing to do some paperwork, and I was alone in the bar. I heard what only sounded like someone was pacing back and forth in the basement. Thinking that it was my brother, I yelled out to him, "Kevin, is that you?" But I got no response. Scratching my head, I grabbed my Mossberg and slowly crept down to the basement stairs. But it was empty. Or so I thought. As I started to walk back up the stairs, that's when I saw it. This figure sitting at the top of the stairs, and I can only describe him as 6 feet tall, an older looking style of dress. He was just sitting there. I shouted to him, "Hey, we're closed. You need to leave." But that's when this man just basically floated down the stairs and rushed through me. All of a sudden, I felt this horrible feeling, like I was about to die. Then, the lights in the basement turned off. I could hear people talking to me, begging me to live again. That's when I heard this saw, the bone saw that you always hear in those movies. And I heard a woman scream. This all happening in a matter of seconds. I ran up the stairs so fast, back to my office. I've never been so scared. Then, the next morning, I shared my story with my brother. He told me that almost everything, how every employee had an experience, how he himself had experienced himself. He just didn't want to tell me because he didn't think I'd believe him. I was so scared to go back into that basement, to even step foot in my own bar. Fortunately, due to financial issues and just not being able to keep employees, we closed the bar in 2009, and the building stayed there since. Finally, in 2015, I heard that the building had burnt down, burnt to the ground. Thank God, because that was true evil in that building. I don't think I can or will ever get over these events because it has changed my outlook in life and just the way I view this world. This happened to me several years ago. I was working as a CNA in a nursing home. Now, I always say it's one of the most emotional jobs in the world. However, sometimes you just need to leave the things at the door. People come in, you get to know their life story, and slowly see them decline. It really is sad. These events happened to me several years ago. A new resident came into our nursing home. Her name was Belle. She was a very sweet little lady. Now, she was a level 3 resident, meaning she was very capable. She even drove. She just needed a little help remembering things. Honestly, she was the most well-spoken, well-written resident I have ever dealt with. I asked her one day, "Belle, you're very smart and so capable. Why do you think you're here?" She just laughed and said, "Well, my children think I'm going crazy because I'm always talking to my daughter." I didn't think anything of this. Now, I really didn't understand what she meant by it, but anyways, weeks went on, then months. Belle stayed the same. And that was until one night. I worked the night shift in a shift change. I was alone in the hallway. Level 3 residents have their own kitchen, bathroom, you name it. I happened to hear Belle talking to someone. I heard her say, "Oh, my dear, you need to let me sleep. We can play in the morning." Now, I'm thinking that she was having a dream, so I knocked several times. She finally came to the door. "Are you okay, Belle?" I said to her. "Oh, yes, Mary just wants to play, and I just went to sleep." "Oh, okay, who's Mary?" "Oh, she's my daughter." For several seconds, I thought that she still had visitors. Well, visitor's hour is over. You need to let her go. Oh, my dear, Mary never leaves. She just said goodnight, and then she closed the door. The aha moment came to me. Maybe she was slowly losing it. A couple weeks later, I ran into one of the night nurses and told her the story. Oh, she's always talking to Mary. She told me Mary was her daughter, and that she was playing very loud. The weird thing was, or is that her daughter died when she was 7. I just thought, okay, she has dementia, and she's, well, not accepting reality. I just went on about my business. Several days later, I was speaking to Belle about Mary and asked her, do you see her? She said, well, of course, honey. She's standing right next to you. Of course, I didn't see anything. Okay, Belle. And then I just left the room. Several weeks later, I ended up taking a night shift. Again, I'm alone in the hallway, and I overhear Belle again say something like, Mary, Mommy needs to sleep. Please, just let me sleep. I actually thought someone was still visiting. It didn't dawn on me again. I slowly opened the door. To my shock, there was no one there. Belle, who's here with you? Oh, my dear, it's Mary. She just won't let me sleep again. So I kind of played along with her. Okay, well, tell her you need to sleep. I was slowly walking out of the room when I hear, as clear as day, a little child's voice say, Fine, do you want to play with me? I walked out of that room so fast. I have never worked a night shift since, and I really try to avoid Belle. She's still here, bright as day, but so is Mary. I am an EMT, and I have my fair share of horror stories. But this one is probably the most frightening, that one that comes to mind. It was December, and I was working at 12. Me and my partner hadn't got a call all night, and that usually means that we're going to get a messed up call or one of those what the F moments. So dispatch comes over the radio for a tone. Emergency 12 Lake Lane. Woman called in having chest pains. Okay, I thought, chest pains. Let's just pop some nitro and transport. So we get to the home, and I find all the lights off. I called into dispatch. Did the patient tell you our location? The dispatcher said, nope, she just called saying that her heart hurt, and then she hung up. Okay, great, I thought. So me and my partner knock, and of course, we don't get an answer. So we had to wait for police to come. They ended up popping the door, and we made entry. Hello, I called out, EMTs, but no one answered. We ended up searching every room in the lower floor, and we made our way to the first floor. Hello? Yeah. I heard this raspy voice come from the bathroom, so we opened the door. On the floor was an elderly lady. She was on the floor. Ma'am? But no answer. So we both knelt down. I put my hand and found her body to be cold. What the? So I checked her vitals. No blood pressure, no pulse, and no reaction. This woman was dead. We went to work with CPR, but after a couple minutes, it dawned on us. She was dead way before we had even gotten there. Now, I can't legally declare it death, so we called in for the PD to call in for the medical examiner. After about an hour or so, the guy declared that her death was at 6:30. It didn't dawn on us at the time, but driving back to the station, my partner said, Dude, that call came in at 12 a.m., right? I was like, yeah. And the medical examiner said, when? She died around 6:30. That's when it dawned on me. What the heck? I said. We heard that woman call from the bathroom, and even speaking to the dispatcher, she was talking clear as day. I don't know what happened, but that is still one of those nope moments for me. Now, I know everyone will find this story to be false, or that I'm making it up, but I know for my own sanity that these events that took place are without a doubt real. Several years ago, I worked for a construction business, which was probably one of the best jobs I ever had. You get to go to places and see things that a lot of people don't. Anyways, a lot of the time, we work on older places for renovation purposes. Back in 2011, my company was given the task of working on this older building, which was formerly an insane asylum. I was pretty excited about the project. I love buildings with history, and this place had it. We started renovations first thing in the summer. Things came along quite well for some weeks. I loved seeing the older building, the rooms, the tunnels. On my break time, I would just explore it whenever I got the chance. One afternoon, I was on my lunch break, and this older man came up to me. He asked me if I was fixing it up. Excuse me, I asked him. He ended up telling me how he was a caretaker there, and how the rumors had that so many patients were missing and mistreated. I didn't believe him, but he ended up just looking at me and said, "Well, good luck, young fella. You'll need it." And he just ended up walking away. I really didn't give it much thought. Several days later, we had to wait for a lumber to come in. The truck driver said he was going to make it until about 9 or so I told my boss I would gladly wait for him. Night came quickly, it seemed. Honestly, I have never been so scared of a place, but man, when night came, it gave a different face. I was just waiting in the makeshift break room. That's when I swear I could hear what only sounded like people talking. At first, I thought it was the crew, so I peered out into the dark hallway. Nothing. I overlooked the parking lot quickly. I was the only truck. I'm hearing things, I thought. So I go back to the break room and go back to my YouTube videos. Boom! I nearly jumped out of my seat. Something crashed in the hallway. What the hell, I thought? I jumped out of my chair and peered out. One of the lumber bundles had fell over. I couldn't understand this because those things weigh tons. So I just go back and start cleaning it up. That's when I feel this cold gust of wind rush past me. I try my best to explain it away, but I just couldn't. Okay, I'm just scaring myself at that point, I thought. So I walked back to the break room. As I turned to walk into the room, out of the corner of my eye, I caught what only catches a glimpse of someone staying in a hallway. I look quickly. I'm just seeing things, I thought. So I go back to watching my videos. I had my eyes on the phone and half into the doorway. But that's when I see it. I see a woman walk past the doorway in this weird type walk, a very unhuman walk. If you've ever seen the movie Gothica, that's the best way I can explain her movements. I nearly crap my pants. I get up and look into the hallway. Hello? I call nervously. I get no response. Please, I'm begging inside my head that someone was just messing with me. I told myself, nope, I'll just stay in my truck. I ended up walking my way to the exit. The exit isn't far from the break room, but you have to walk down a flight of stairs, and before the exit, it's a long hallway that leads into a building we call Building B. As I walk to the exit, I peer down the hallway, and I see a figure standing about 50 feet from me. A woman in a white gown. She has her head twisted in this ungodly way. Then she starts doing this twitching motion and starts walking towards me in this unhumanly quick way. I have never moved so fast in my life. I get to my truck, start it, and peel out. Remembering I had to wait for the driver, I ended up just waiting at the end of the entrance. Needless to say, from that point on, I only worked days and never stepped foot in that part again. Whether you believe my story or not, I knew it happened. And has completely changed the way I view this world. Ghost stories are fake, right? But what if they're real? This story takes place back when I was 8. Now that's nearly 40 years ago, but I remember like it was yesterday. My parents purchased this old farmhouse in hopes of renovation. Now, my dad was the hands-on type guy, so he was in bliss about the purchase of the property. But as soon as we moved in, strange occurrences started taking place. My first ghostly occurrence was when I was sitting in my room alone. I heard laughter coming from the crawl space. Thinking that it was my sister, I ran to the door and there was no one there. Quickly realizing and remembering that my sister was at her friend's house. My next experience was when I was sitting on the table doing my homework. My mom would always come up to me and rub my shoulders. I felt someone rubbing my shoulders, thinking, oh, it's my mom. I said, thanks, Mom, I'm doing okay on my homework. But then quickly turning and realizing my mom was standing in front of me. She said, huh? The incident I tried quickly to put behind me. My next paranormal experience happened when I was alone. I was sitting on the couch watching television. I heard what sounded like my mom calling me from the basement. I got up, walked to the cellar stairs, and called out, "What?" I quickly froze because my mom was at work. My last experience was the last and most frightening it ever happened, and it happened to all of us. We were sitting at the table. We all overheard a woman crying. We all hushed up. At first, my dad thought that the TV was left on, but we all saw that it was off. That's when my mom screamed. We all looked, and we couldn't make out a figure standing in the dark. When my dad sat up to confront the person, it vanished right in front of our eyes. After that, my mom had a priest bless the house and the paranormal activity stopped. And whoever, or whatever it was, no longer haunted us. I will never forget my ghostly friend, so to speak. And thank God that whatever it was is now gone, as my parents still live in the house and they have never experienced anything since. But every now and then, when I do visit, a chill runs up my spine knowing that she could be hiding. I don't know if anyone reading this will believe, but I want to tell my story. That way, it will feel as if, well, that I'm not lying. Back in 2014, I purchased a plot of land in Anchorage, Alaska. The property was beautiful, and so was a cabin that I ended up falling in love with. I really don't know much history on the cabin itself, but I quickly moved into the cabin and started to adjust to life. If anyone who lives in Alaska, you'll know just how white the winters get, and sometimes you can be stuck inside for weeks on end. So, preparing is essential. The cabin was small, but it was enough for me and my dog Jasper. I actually loved it. Having to really push yourself to live on one's own amongst a location that is always testing you was actually amazing. One night, I was out back cutting up firewood. I kept getting this feeling of being watched. I kept looking over my shoulder, but nothing was ever there. The feeling kept coming and just wouldn't go away. Several nights went by and that sinking feeling of being watched started to really get to me. But unfortunately, due to some major snowstorm, I was pretty much stuck. I honestly started to think it was just me and that I was going nuts being stuck in one place. Cabin fever is like we like to call it. One night, I had the most terrifying dream. I dreamt that I was being watched by this creepy old man. He just stood at the foot of my bed holding a shotgun. And the dreams went on every night. Every night, he got closer and closer to me. Finally, one night, the dream was one of the worst. He was standing over me. He lowered the shotgun and boom! I woke up in a panic. But I swear that I could actually smell gunpowder. Weird things really started to increase. I would always turn my back to get a feeling as if someone just stepped up behind me. Lights would randomly turn off and doors would randomly lock. Then, one night, me and Jasper were at the table. He was by my side, and I was drinking some coffee and reading a book. Jasper just jumps up and starts viciously growling at the back door. I was like, "What's wrong, boy?" But I couldn't see anyone. Then, the door just swung open so violently, almost like someone kicked it in. I actually thought someone did. I had my sidearm. I grabbed it and headed towards the door. Nothing. No footprints in the snow. And here's the freaky part. It was deadbolted. I could never explain that one, although I have yet to see a ghost, and I'm not saying that is what it is. Just last night, I swear I saw something run past the bedroom window. Again, after exploring, there's no footprints. I will keep you all pushed. There was no footprints. I will keep you all posted as this is an ongoing thing. Wish me luck and pray for me because I feel that the worst is yet to come. I have always wondered if ghosts do exist. My question was, are they real? But I warn anyone that goes looking that you'll find what you're looking for, and sometimes it's the worst possible outcome. This is something that I will never forget, that still haunts me to this day. No pun intended. Back about 3 years ago, I joined up with a local ghost hunting team in hopes of experiencing something that was a hobby to these guys. Over the course of a year being with them, nothing happened until one night we got a call from a client experiencing extreme paranormal activity. Everything she pointed to seemed to be a negative entity. Even the team leader was out of his experience zone, so to speak, and he was quite concerned with it, telling us this might be out of our league, but we need to do something for this client. That whole conversation really made me iffy about even going, but I knew that I had to if I wanted to prove that something exists out there. This is probably the first time I walked into a location and was almost certain that it was haunted. Something was off about that house. Something evil. Almost like something was lurking in the back. We got started right away, setting up the DVR and starting our investigation. We started with EVPs, electronic voice phenomena. Nothing was happening and we weren't getting anything on the recorder for about 2 hours. So one of the investigators started asking more personal and pushing questions. Asking things like, why are you so mean? Who are you? And why did you do something to us? It seemed off, but I swear, the change in the atmosphere was almost deafening. I could feel something all around both of us. And that's when I felt a terrible sting on my back. At first, I just thought that I had scraped myself up against something. So when I lifted my shirt, one of the investigators said, "Oh my God." There was 3 scratch marks along my back in a X symbol. I knew that I was being attacked, but didn't fully come to terms with what exactly was happening. A couple minutes went by, and I started feeling really weird. And the best way I can describe this is kind of feeling lightheaded, out of place. So I told one of the investigators that I needed to step out to get some fresh air. And I stepped out and got some fresh air, and I'm just standing outside. All of a sudden, this is the best way to explain it. Flashes of different images started popping into my head. Thoughts that I never had before. The thought of hurting my team members, the thought of even burning down the house, the thought of hurting myself. I started getting really nervous. And that's when I saw this shadow looking thing standing right by me. And I could have sworn that it was floating with my shadow. I freaked out and ran into the house to get one of the investigators and told them what was going on. They immediately said that they were going to stop the investigation because they truly believed that I was in the process of getting possessed. I went home that night absolutely frightened. After doing some saging and a little bit of praying, it stopped for about a day or two. That's when the nightmares really started coming. Nightmares of me doing, again, really bad things to my wife, to my friends, to my family. Thoughts that I've never had before. I couldn't take it anymore. We eventually got a hold of a medium psychic who worked with this kind of stuff. She told me with an absolute doubt that something had attached itself to me. A couple days later, she performed a cleansing, whatever you want to call it, exorcism, and the trouble had stopped there. But it still haunts me to this day, because she told me that even though that this thing that attached itself is gone, it could very well come back, and come back with a vengeance. I warn anyone who searches for this kind of stuff, you gotta be careful. Always have your guard up. Always have protection, because at one point, you'll get your answer. I hope this story isn't too short, as this happened to me about several weeks ago, and I really want to share it with someone. I was driving down a well-known haunted road here in Pennsylvania called Kelly Road. I am sure that a few of you have heard about it. If you haven't, I would just look it up on Google without having to go into full details. I was by myself driving, listening to my music. I was the only car on the road at the moment. All of a sudden, my radio cuts out, and I noticed something about 30 to 40 feet in front of my car. I stopped. It looked like this white mist starting to appear, and then it started taking a shape. The best way I can describe this shape is a Native American-like dress. This figure just was standing in the middle of the road. I could just make out a little bit, and it pointed at me. I was absolutely terrified. And then my car just shuts off. This thing started floating towards my car. I was absolutely freaking out and terrified. I couldn't move. And then it was gone. And then my car just starts, and my radio turns back on. I peeled out of there, and I refused to drive down that road ever again. Again, you should look it up, and hopefully that'll explain some of the story. Again, I'm really sorry for the short story, but hopefully that you can give me some, explanation. Thanks. This happened to me when I was about 7 or so. At the time, I really didn't believe in ghosts or even know what they were. Anyways, I digress. There's an old library down the street that we would go there every weekend and get books. I loved it. And the children's section was in the basement area, so it was already creepy enough. I know the building was built in the early 1800s, and before that was some type of courthouse or something. I'll do a little bit more research and let you know. So I get to the children's sections. You have to walk down this creepy staircase, and then you enter the basement. I remember it was always and has always given me the creeps, but I would just do my best to ignore it. So I'm down there by myself and just checking out some books, when all of a sudden I get this feeling of being watched. Mind you, the librarian doesn't go down there because you have to check your books out upstairs. So you are definitely alone. I was just looking at the books, and I got this feeling that someone was right behind me. I turned around and I didn't see anyone, so I just went on and kept looking at my books. Then I saw this old lady just standing at the end of the bookshelves. She scared me at first, and I just said, "Hi, you scared me." The lady just smiled and just went on with her business, looking at books and putting them away. I didn't think anything of it, so I just kept on going on looking at my books. I found 3 books that I wanted and headed upstairs, met up with my dad, and checked them out. I was walking out. I told my dad about my experience, and he just laughed and said it must have been one of the librarians. But for some reason, I just kept getting this feeling that that person wasn't meant to be there. I can't explain it, and neither could my 7-year-old mind. As we were walking out, I looked at one of the paintings, and my jaw dropped. I said, "Oh, that's her. She's really nice." My dad looked at me and he said, "Huh?" I'm like, "That's a nice lady I saw." My dad shook his head and says, "No, hun, there's no way." I didn't understand this and asked him what he meant. He said, "There's no way. That's one of the first librarians that ever was working here, hun." I shook my head and says, "No, I saw that lady downstairs." My dad just said, "There's no way," and showed me the date. He said, "Look, 1800 to 1830. She is long gone, my love." That story and those feelings still come to me every now and then. The building is still there, and I sometimes frequent it. And I still see that picture. I don't know what I saw that day, whether it was some type of paranormal activity or just something stuck in time, or whatever. I'm not an expert. That's why I'm sharing my story with you. I'm sorry it was short, but I can't remember all the details. But the ones I do will forever haunt me. Well, all my haunted followers, guys, I hope that you liked those stories. Again, I'm so sorry for it being so late in doing this, and having the time to do this is just not happening. That's why I think I wanted to create this long video, 10 stories that were shared to me that I've been waiting to kind of share. And I really hope that going forward, and like I said, there is going to be someone that's going to be able to edit my videos. This is going to be in the future. Hopefully sometime in February, they're going to start being able to edit my videos. That way I can just record and send them recordings, and they can edit for me. That way I get quicker uploads. And I just want to say I really appreciate almost everyone who has kept subscribing and hasn't stopped subscribing and just been following me the entire time. I will do my best to keep you guys updated. I wish there was a comment section or something that I can share, although I think you can only get that once you're at 10,000 subscribers or whatever that is. That's why I communicate with you. But for now, it's just going to be me be able to comment on some of these new videos, older videos, kind of sharing what's going to be happening. I do have another group of stories I'm going to be doing in January. The quest was for skinwalkers again, so that's what I'm going to do. So, just keep subscribing, guys. Don't give up on me. I really appreciate it, and I just want to find that time to be able to do that. So going back, I want to kind of share my thoughts on some of these stories and kind of give what I think about some of them. They were all amazing stories. There's not one that I didn't like. I think my favorite one was one of my favorite stories was the cabin, because I think I've heard of stories like that before. I couldn't imagine someone who doesn't have an experience with paranormal, even with me, you're stuck in a location. You're literally stuck there, and it's not like you can just leave. That's not going to happen. You're stuck, and you can't do anything about it. And I felt like this guy was just stuck there, and especially when you're in a location that it snows so heavily that you're isolated to the home at sometimes, and that's frightening. To me, it sounded like what this man was dealing with was somebody who was the original owner of the cabin, and he just didn't want him there. A couple other stories, the construction story, that was really cool. Getting to go to these locations, those insane asylums, the original insane asylum, is also really cool. You're going to have residual energy in any of these kind of locations because there's so much history to it. Same goes for the library. But it sounded to me like that the librarian was nothing more than a peaceful spirit, and kind of just, she hadn't moved on from her, job. I think that goes with any spirit who goes back to their job, if you think about it, because that's all they knew. I've heard stories about librarians. I've heard stories about police officers or security guards or firefighters or someone who is committed to the position. Teachers, especially, they're committed to their career in life and beyond that, which I think is really cool. Anytime you're also, another one really was interesting was the possession story. As a paranormal investigator myself, going on 19 years now, which blows my mind. You have to be careful. You can't just walk into this thinking you're going to see something and not reap the benefits, but then also just reap the repercussions, basically, because it can happen. You don't know what you're dealing with, and to me it sounded like this gentleman was dealing with a malevolent spirit or was dealing with something demonic. And he's right, and the medium that spoke with him is right. Possession is very frightening, and it's very, very, very rare, like I've told you guys in a couple videos. But when it does happen, you have that attachment, and that attachment might never go away. It could be like a scar on you that just never goes away. That's why you have to be really careful. And I see a lot of ghost hunting shows, specifically Ghost Adventures, and this is where me and Zach Baggins don't see eye to eye on things. I don't believe in communicating the way he does. You're trying to start something that you might not be able to finish. You got to be really careful, guys, when you're doing this. Please be careful. I can't say that enough. To the person who shared that story with me, I would just, you stick to your beliefs and stick to protecting yourself so that this malevolent or demonic spirit doesn't come back. Spirit, it's a demonic entity, if you will. And a lot of these stories fairly seem like they're, you go to an old home, like the farm, the old farmhouse that the gentleman shared with me, you're going to have some type of activity, only because there could be residual energy there, and we know that what is residual energy something that just is stuck in time. And whether the spirit is intelligent or not, they're very aware of your presence, and sometimes the best thing you can do is just learn to live with that. If the spirit is not malevolent, if they're not evil, if they're not causing you harm, I think it's best to learn to live with them, because they're not trying to frighten you. That's their home too. Even though they have passed on, it was still a major part of their life during their time here on Earth. Guys, again, I hope that you enjoyed all those stories. Again, next I'm going to try to do a Skinwalker story, but after that, I think I want to do another Men in Black story. So maybe along the lines of UFO. And something after that, I want to do something with cryptids. One of my favorite topics too. Another thing I'm looking for, guys, I'm obsessed with the Thunderbird, as you know. If you have any type of Thunderbird stories, please share them with me. I do want to do another Thunderbird, 10 Thunderbird stories, so that's a big thing to ask of you guys. Please just look on Reddit, share this as much as possible. Look for me so I can find some Thunderbird stories. All right, guys. Well, I hope that you enjoy your holidays. Hopefully this video is uploaded before then, so this actually makes sense. But as always, happy huntings.